What's up, gamers? We are back with some more modern adventures. I hope you guys have been enjoying some of the other content we've been putting up, a little bit of our little history twist of things, as well as kind of other cool stuff to be able to watch. We're going to start doing that, having some variety of stuff since we're getting ready for Modern Horizons 3. Well, really, Modern Horizons 3 is about to be like in full swing, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we're doing this video today, is because both of these decks could be seeing some new tools from Modern Horizons 3. Specifically, there's like 3 elf pieces that are going to get printed into the elf meta here. Elves are very weak in the current meta with things like fatal pushes and orcish bowmasters and just painful things that are just very good about killing things. So you have to be aware of that. But it does have a lot of speed available to it. You know, if you've thought about picking up a deck like this, it's pretty cool, like creature centric, very focused on getting some stuff out. We'll be seeing things, and here we were just talking about how dangerous it is with orcish bowmasters and already pinging things off. But there are some new tools getting printed. Priest of Titania is coming out there. It is a 1/1, so it is very vulnerable to the bowmaster shenanigans, but you get to add a green for each elf on the battlefield, so that is nice. Wirewood Symbiote is printed now for modern, which, you know, we've Curin Ranger, Wirewood Symbiote are like the kind of hand-in-hand little high synergy cards that are needed for elves to function in the legacy side of things, and now we get to see those tools printed in modern, which is great. We've got, of course, our Nettle Sentinel here, which is a big part of the high synergy pieces that were originally part of the modern stuff. Just swinging for 2/2. It doesn't untap during your opponent's untap step. It does, or during your untap step. It only untaps when you play a green thing. So, you know, you can do some shenanigans with making 3 green mana, and we'll see if that ends up happening this game. The other potential creature that we could be seeing added to the elves is the Eldamri, the new one where you get to be able to cast a creature spell from the top of your library or from your hand. I mean, you have to tap other elves to do it. It's like this and 2 other elves, but if you have like a Crater Hoof, or you have some way to kind of get some creatures up and manipulate things, it seems like a good way to go about here. But we're going to see the there we go. 2 constructs getting created here off the Urza Saga side of things. So the 8-rack. 8-rack is a very cool deck. Of course, our pilot is kind of the resident 8-rack player. He's kind of taken it upon himself to really dive deep into this deck. And the 8-rack deck is getting a new 1-drop with the Nethergoyf. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Nethergoyf, it's just like Tarmogoyf, but its power is equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard, and its toughness is that +1. So it doesn't count both graveyards, it's just one. But in this case, where you're playing 8-rack, you're throwing sorceries in there, you're throwing instant, you have your enchantments, you've got your lands with the Urza Sagas. It could get pretty big pretty quickly. You might have to start doing an adjusted list to 8-rack if you're not running Mishra's Bauble. That would be another one to consider running in here. But this kind of beat down plan now that the 8-rack is going for is like, it's just mono black good stuff without being the like control side that Cabal coffers, which we did see that video recently. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out on the channel. But, you know, we'll see how things work out. We're in the beatdown plan. Is you do have, of course, the finding a little bit of lifelink, a little bit of trample off of our Shadow Spear that was found from the Urza Saga. So we do have kind of like this big presence now here. Elf side of thing is like, it's a very 3 mana is kind of that peak mana that we're hoping to get here. Elvish Archdruid is the play, helps us generate a lot of green mana, and we did get to see that little untap, which is kind of setting us up here. So we're hoping to kind of stabilize here. If we can survive a turn without removal, like, yes, we could take a bunch of hits, and that wouldn't be as bad as us getting some of these creatures removed. Like, losing Archdruid would be extremely detrimental here, because we need that next turn to really have an explosive turn and really pop off and get something going here, whether it's like a Collected Company or something else to really pop. You could try to do a block here, but it's dangerous to do so. Like, you could be like, oh, I'll use my Nettle Sentinel to block the Bowmaster or something along those lines. But if our opponent has a Fatal Push, if they've got a Sheldred's Edict, you don't want to be in a weird spot where they can start doing some shenanigans. So, like, all right, so we're going to see a block. I guess I'm nervous about the Fatal Push. I guess because you've already seen a Fatal Push, you're okay, because Fatal Push can't hit the Archdruid right now. But Let's see the choices. Looks like there is another Bowmaster as a potential option here. Archdruid does give Nettle Sentinel +1/+1, so Nettle Sentinel is a 3/3 right now, blocking a 1/1. So I guess you're feeling safe enough that it's like, yeah, I can get away with it. It should be fine. See a little bit of, yeah. So Sheldred's Edict coming out here. Each opponent sacks a non-token creature is the plan here. So you say, okay, well, that's going to get gobbled up, no problem. Bam, big hits, big hits. Yeah, so now they're just confirming the life totals. There's a nurturing Peed land out that also impacted how much life was there. So all right, essentially a 4 mana. The goal, okay, interesting. I was like, he might have got stuck or elf player with a bunch of 3-drops and stuff like that. Like, the goal with having Archdruid out at that point is to be able to play a couple more 1-drops, 2-drops even, generate a bunch of creatures, tap your Archdruid to get a bunch more mana, and then, like, basically have a snowball turn, right? That's a lot of what you're hoping. But I guess when he's sitting there going, okay, I've taken a lot of hits, you've got, quite a bit of threats here, it's looking tough. So we're going to jump into game 2 here. Again, we cut out the sideboarding aspects, but if you want to look a little bit about what these decks have, you can check out our Moxfiled link to see some of the deck lists that we've been showcasing on the channel here. There are going to be some slight updates and changes to some of the lists as Modern Horizons 3 comes out, and players are going to start brewing up and testing out and trying out all kinds of new shenanigans. I'm really interested to see what people are going to bring in the first week, whether it's going to be some Phoenix builds, whether people are going to just go Merfolk. Lots of choices. I think I might try an Urza build, but we'll see. We'll see. That might be a little dangerous to bring week 1. But, having the orb is that winter orb style or whatever, it's winter moon. I don't, that's kind of my plan, is do some slow down to people that are trying to be greedy with their mana bases going into Modern Horizons 3. All right, here we go. Heritage Druid works. We were talking about that high synergy card. Nettle Sentinel plus Heritage Druid are like the two best friends that work together to be able to generate that 3 mana very quickly, very easily here. So playing that early. It is not a activated ability in that regard of you have to tap it to generate the 3, so you can always save and play the Heritage Druid later, but it looks like we're seeing kind of the no double 1-drops here. We see 1, right? There's a Nettle Sentinel, but it looks like no additional 1-drop. So that's kind of the reasoning behind this. But we immediately gets met with a Fatal Push that guy off a cliff. Not going to worry about you generating a bunch of mana. And here's an Urza Saga. All right. Looks like there's a Bowmaster at least in hand here, which is never something that an elf player wants to be seeing. Yeah, so that's really interesting. Like, this move to combat, swing for 1, immediately gets blown apart by this Bowmaster. All right, there's 3, takes 1 damage. Oh, okay. Rex Sage is nice. Let's blow up your Urza Saga. I always love when you get to do that, like a little bit of utility stuff and be like, all right, double duty, let's just kind of strip away your Urza Saga. Very important when you're fighting against like an 8-rack, or if you're fighting against like a Hardened Scales player, if you have the ability to do it. So we got some grief shenanigans coming. Right, Archdruid and anti-enchantment stuff, which is pretty good when you think about, like, you're fighting against an 8-rack player, right? They have the Shrieking Afflictions in there. They've got the Urza Sagas. You gain some life off it, so it's not a bad sideboard card to bring in, especially when you're usually generating a lot of mana to get up to the 5 that you need to cast it. Ooh, Voidwalker here. That's some annoyance. All right. No blocks. Take some damage here. Okay, there we go. Elves champion. Hey, all elves have Forest Walking +1. With Yavimaya out there, we get a nice little unblockable 3 damage swinging across. So pretty solid. Like that's, all lists should be running the champion there, depending on how many numbers you want. You can fluctuate your lists and stuff like that, but that's definitely a one that you need to be including, especially with Yavimaya existing nowadays. Like there used to run less of it back in the day in earlier elf builds, but now it's kind of an auto include 4 of. All right, Dothy's got that shadow. Can only be blocked by other creatures with shadow. When it first came out, I kept thinking it had fear and not shadow, so I'd be like, oh, I have an artifact creature. Oh, I have a black creature. I can block it. No, those creatures do not have shadow. You cannot block it. Shadow is a very cool mechanic. All right, here's 3 unblockable. Please sacrifice a creature. Well, I guess we're going to sacrifice our Reclamation Sage here. Yeah, it's really interesting, like, this, not seeing, like, any of the 1-drops, right? I do know that our elf player, I'm pretty sure, did have to mulligan this game. That did have an impact of things, and you're already mulliganing against a deck that cares about stripping your hand and doing things like that. It's a tough position to be in, especially with these double Sheldred's Edict hitting here, stripping away everything that you've got. Now let's swing in 5 at you. Oh, actually even more, because we did see the activation of the land. All right, we've got a Shaman of the Pack, which would be feeling much better when we had our elves out here, but hey, we're going to hit you with 1. And then we get the life totals up to date there for you to be able to see. At least we got a blocker now, but... All right. A little totem in hand to prevent activated abilities, which works out really well when you're fighting down somebody that's just running a lot of tap abilities with the elves, getting mana. Not going to happen this time. All right, yeah, it's like the debate. Okay, do I activate it? Yes or no? And we're going to push for damage. So attempt to do some trading against probably the land here. Cut him off some mana maybe. Take a lot. Go to 2. Play our totem. Top deck something. Rex Sage, blow that up. Doesn't help us not die to the shadow effect. Oh, there we go. Yeah, let's make sure that gets tucked in there too. Do you like troll your opponent and only send the elf or the orcish bowmaster and the other guy, and then be like, I will attack to activate it to create a copy of your Shaman of the Pack to kill you with your own creature? No, that's too trolly. There's the hand extended. 8-rack, take a quick 2-0 in this situation here. Where was all the mana dorks? That was crazy. I don't feel like this is the best showing of what the elf deck can do, or will be the best showing of what the elf deck can do post Modern Horizons 3 with some new additions. However, this is a good indication of what you can expect and some of the hardest cards for the elf deck to interact with are things like the Orcish Bowmasters, the Fatal Pushes, things like that that are just going to be, you know, all the normal removal type stuff that people are running is what you're going to be worried about. Now, if you're fighting against some of the other control-y decks out there, you might be able to get out there much faster, where this version of the 8-rack had some threats that it could deploy in addition to having that removal to back it up. But hope you guys enjoyed this one. Nice quick one for us to start out the Monday this week. We got a little bit of different content coming out Thursday. We're going to be talking a little bit about One Piece. So if you guys are interested in learning about how to play One Piece, check out Thursday's video coming up here. But that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, everybody, and I'll see you all next game.